Hello, and welcome to the Old Farm Bus Podcast. This is the back of the bus session.
Hello and welcome to the Old Farm Bus Back of the Bus Sessions podcast. Today I've got a new mate in here with me. I'm really looking forward to this. So let's go in with Matt McGuinness.
Yeah.
That's the energy we need, baby. How are we doing, brother?
I'm good, yeah, I think so. It's weird, isn't it? There's a lot going on all the time, and but I do actually feel start of the year, see things a bit clearer now. I don't know.
You're in a clear space.
Yeah. I can't talk for anybody else.
Yeah, 100%. It's a good space to be in for self.
Yeah.
When you see the news and everything that is happening at the moment, where does that put your heart? Do you try and shut off from it? Do you try and look at it and see what is happening? I'm just interested in your approach.
Yeah, no, well, you can't. I don't know. It's weird. It's one of those things that you can't shut off from it, and you also you have to at points.
It's true, isn't it?
It's weird. This morning I turned the radio off because I just thought I can't listen to it anymore, and then I felt bad for turning the radio off. Like, me listening to it is anywhere near what other people are going through at the moment. But you have to give yourself, no matter what position, you have to give yourself a bit of space, don't you?
Yeah, I felt that the other day at the gym. They've got a big TV up in there, and having kids now has completely changed a mindset piece of mine, and seeing mothers and fathers running off with their kids and that constant destruction and fear, and it really hit me. And exact same feeling. I just walked out, and I had a bit of shame there attached, because I thought, oh my God, you're just turning your back to this when they're actually living it. But I love what you're saying there with the nuance of, but Mikey but Matt, you need to give yourself a little bit of a break from it. You can't just force yourself all the time to be reading constant negativity and worry.
I think that's where people go wrong a bit with mental health sometimes, because you compare yourself to so many other people in other situations, which is okay sometimes, but you can't constantly do that, can you? You can't lose one leg and I'm not allowed to be upset by it because someone else has lost both. Do you know what I mean? There's a comparison here, but also you have to look at yourself and your own personal circumstances as well as other people.
It's knowing your threshold. I like saying your worst day is your worst day.
Yeah.
And that could be for somebody losing the leg, and it could be for somebody else having a really bad hair day, not the makeup right or whatever it is, but still, that's your threshold. That is your worst day. So don't need to compare and put your life into other people's hands. I did it a lot. I was going through depression, and I had micro traumas in my life, and I've wrote long timelines out of this has happened and this caused this. But then when I'd heard of other people's stories, I thought, well, mine's not that bad. So then I put an additional pain onto myself because I compared to other people and thought, well, you shouldn't be depressed then. It doesn't make sense for you to be depressed because they went through all this. So you're just being a wimp, and again, that toxic masculinity of I just need to man up style thing. And that put me into a much worse state. I think I listened to Alan Watts, and he's explaining you hate yourself for hating yourself for hating yourself, and it's just this vicious cycle. I suppose today, the reason we started talking more, because you're like a mythical figure to me.
Wow, that's good.
I see you around. I see you on Facebook, and obviously I've attached you with the Furthest from the Sea, music. I know you're very creative, and you're an awesome person in the community. I've heard a lot about you.
It's really kind.
You've had wonderful words been said. I really do mean that. And I've always wanted to link up, but the reason we've started talking more was the mental health festival and so on. So is mental health really close to your heart and really a part of you? Yeah,
I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Because I look back now, and it's probably affected me for, I don't know, 10, 12 years or something, maybe more, I don't know, but definitely 10 or 12 years. But it's only in the last year or two, maybe, that I've recognised that.
Really?
And I'm really glad that I've actually got to that point, for whatever reason. Well, for lots of people, actually, lots of support and lots of. But I was telling you before that that I've always done music, and I hit the point when I decided to bog off to Edinburgh Fringe to do a show, rather than go and see any more professional help. and I just didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea. And I went with Sophie, who was saying, I'm so glad she was there. And there's a mate called Alex who was there. And I think without them, those two and a number of other people, it would have been bad. Because I'd never been to Edinburgh before, never mind anything.
You were at the festival. That's the busiest time ever.
And I'd never performed before. And I remember getting there in the morning. It was absolutely packed. We left quite early. And by about lunchtime, I was thinking, this is all right, And then I realised I still had to perform this show at 10 o'clock at night in this dingy basement. And I didn't really know what I was doing. And then just before I was about to perform it, 2 people turned up that I hadn't seen for years. I was just freaked. Completely.
Really?
Yeah.
I think that's the thing with mental health. A lot of people, they've got a house that's falling down, and they don't want to go into the basement and see the dark stuff because that's scary, and the foundations are so broke, they don't know what to do with them. So they just keep on painting the house and decorating it and trying to make it look nice. And for me, I had really bad mental health from a young boy going up, and all the time I did a lot of traveling. I did like a year in Oz, year in South Africa, but I was still there. So I tried to keep getting away from this problem and traveling around, but it would always come back to me at some point. And yes, for 2, 3, 4 weeks max, nice weather, new people, new environment, brilliant. Eventually everything come back round. It was, I'd get with a girl, there'd be really weird friction, confusion, everything there again. So it is going into that basement and start approaching things.
Yeah.
So
it's like you're on the run, isn't it? You eventually get caught and
from
you have
yourself.
To go again.
I'm
Who
sure
is
he
this
can't
person?
catch me this time.
Keeps turning up in my life.
Keep looking in the mirror. It's back.
No, I get that completely. I mean, I think definitely going to the Fringe was that, and but fortunately it started off the whole process of me actually facing up to it and sorting it out.
Was that what you'd say a pivotal moment in the journey was then, the Fringe?
Oh yeah, I mean it was just I was in this terrible venue. It wasn't really a venue, it was just they'd move out the beer supplies for the week, and I there was in the middle of the week there was another really nice venue that someone had pulled out of, and they said, "Oh, do you want to do your show there?" And it was in the afternoon rather than at night, and it was there's a stage and lights and all that sort of stuff. Wow. And there's about 10 or 15 people in the audience, which is a big audience for Edinburgh. It's normally quite small,
Yeah.
And this guy walked out at the end, about 10 minutes before the end, and I was like, oh God, But by the time I got back to the flat I was staying at, he'd emailed me to say he had to go back and get a train back to London. And then he did this whole list of what he thought of the show and what it meant to him. And at that point then I thought, do you know what I mean? When you feel like you're trying to express yourself and someone can hear you, it makes a difference, doesn't it?
That's beautiful. Yeah.
And it was great, actually. He was. It was funny. He sent me another message because I was in the lakes afterwards and went with the family there. And he said, "Oh, I'm in the lakes as well with my mates. We're trying to have a chat. Do you fancy coming for a pint?" And I nearly went, but I couldn't because I hadn't seen the family for 10 days, and I really missed them, and so I didn't go. But it was just really nice. The fact that I think you must have it all the time. When you talk to people about mental health, they almost instantly become your best mate or your mate, because you're opening up in a way that you probably only did before to your mates, and so they have this empathy instantly, and you have this great connection. And that's happened loads, actually.
So it's a real genuine connection, isn't it? And I suppose it's because we've felt the polarity of how great life can feel, but how painful and dark and awful life can be. And when you connect on that, it's this instant compassion, instant love, and instant, come here, mate, I get it too. I'm with you on that. And funny, he left 10 minutes early.
Yeah.
How important is that of an idea for people? Don't think about what people are thinking. Don't think of their story, because for me, if that would have happened, I would have walked off and really beat myself up, not knowing anything about why he left. And it would have all been me. He thought this, he thought that,
Yeah.
And you really don't know what other people are going through and what their experience is. So that's a beautiful message straight away.
It is, yeah. I mean, to be honest, that's exactly how I felt afterwards. I thought, not only have I come here and it's a stupid idea, it's rubbish as well.
That's back to the Alan Watts thing. You beat yourself up for beating yourself up. It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, but it was great, and I was really grateful because that really helped. And it's right. It does give you a perspective on what you're doing, and also other people. Let's not make those judgments on other people about why they're doing stuff. But yeah, it was good. It was good, but I find that I have that all the time. If I mention suicide or something, or people instantly shut off, or they instantly open up to you, and I like that. I think I've had that quite a few times with the show where if I talk about it afterwards, someone will come up and I feel like they can just talk to you because you've said it first, so it's all right, isn't it?
Does it have a lot of that in your show then? It is all about mental health, isn't it?
It's all about mental health, depression and suicide. How cool is that, eh?
I can't wait.
Entertainment.
When you're next on.
I did this fitness show going, yeah, good choice. Yeah, no, it's great.
How'd you bring light to it then? Do you infuse humour within it?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That's beautiful.
So I had a load of jokes about suicide and I wasn't too sure whether I should use them or not. And I hadn't used them at that point. And then I met a suicide bereavement officer, which is great. And I said, "Oh, while you're here, can I just do 10 minutes?" And he said, "It's all right. You're empathising and you're going through it's about you, isn't it? It's not, you're not trying to say this, that, or the other. You're trying to say this is what happened to me or this." And so it was all right. So now I put it in.
It's where the best experiences, lessons come from, is experiences, rather than my opinion is. Because a lot of people, it comes from a good place, but they want to fix people. So they go out there going, "Oh, if you do this or you do that, this will happen to you."
Yeah.
And actually, it's much better approach to, first of all, listen, hear where they're at, and then you can say, "Can I give you some advice?" But then it's back to, well, in my experience, and this may not work for you, but I'm just going to tell you how I felt. And it's not taking it away from them then, or telling them what to do. It's just going, here's another soul that can be empathic. Here's a bit of advice just through me.
Yeah,
that's where I've learned the best. And
I try not to ever say anyone should do anything.
Yeah.
I just say what I've done, and then it shows as well. We have the Samaritans at every show, and they're really supportive. So there's somewhere to pass people over to, and we try to get some men's mental health groups along as well. Awesome. So there's different options, but I never ever try and say, I've done this, I think this, you should do that, because
it's not a good equation. Very clumsy and clunky.
And I'm not. I said to someone the other day, I'm not even trained professionally in music, so I couldn't talk about anything else.
Could I go a bit into the origin then of Matt? Because were you quite a happy-go-lucky kid? Did you have a nice childhood?
Yeah, I mean, parents are great. My dad was actually, not my biological father, but he was my dad from sort of age 3 or something, and he was phenomenal, great bloke. And so there's none of that really. I mean, I'm just a bit like one of my sons, and I can see it in him now, completely all over the place, but in a good way, but a annoying as hell way, just like shut up, and I said to my wife, I wish my parents were alive so I could apologise to them. Do you know what I mean? It's that sort of thing. But he's lovely, and I hope I was. Who knows? But yeah, I didn't have a bad childhood. I always thought, probably up to 15 years ago, that you can do absolutely anything and you don't have to think about it. Just get on with it and do it. And that's quite chaotic, isn't it? There's nothing wrong with it. You can do everything, but planning first might be a good move.
I'm going to say, because that chaos and sporadic mind has made you achieve and do lots of different things with your life.
Yeah, it has, yeah.
So is there implications to that then? Everything's got a byproduct. You get a lot done, but having that busy mind, is it very hard to switch it off eventually?
Yeah, and it's bad for other people, isn't it, sometimes, because I'll have 4 or 5 conversations with my wife, and she has to pick up on which one I'm talking about, you know,
Yeah.
or I'll pick up on a conversation that I was having the day before or an hour before or last week or October or something.
I think we're the same
that's how it
person.
worked. Oh, yeah, it's bad, isn't it? I mean, it's good and bad, and I think having kids has helped me see that, you know, in a way that I couldn't have before. But it's you know, it means that you can achieve lots of things that you couldn't otherwise, but also it leaves you open to, you know, risk and bankruptcy and failure and stuff. And then you just have to pick yourself up and do it again, you know.
So how have you learned to channel that then? If you are aware because of the kids and maturing in life now of these implications, how do you deal with that, cope with that, and work with that now?
I try to involve more people, that's for sure, and
That's
I try
awesome.
to talk it through. And I've got lots of friends who help, and I've got people who work with me on different projects, and they're not the same type of person as I am, so that they, you know, and they sort of quite forthright in saying what the score is, which is great, and what you need. But you just have to be a bit more measured, don't you? I mean, I'm going back to Edinburgh this year, but it's completely different than the time I went before, you know.
Really?
Yeah, you know, like I've written the script and stuff like that and rehearsed it. Those sort of things.
You had nothing before when
Well,
you did,
I had a sort of script.
an idea.
Yeah, well, yeah, I had notes written out, and every morning I was back in a coffee shop going, oh, well, I'll rewrite that. But I'd never really done it before, you know. I tried it out a little bit beforehand, but it was rubbish. You know?
That mind that you're talking about, the very sporadic, messy mind, how did it operate in school? Was education okay for you?
No, I left school with 1 O level.
What in?
A geography.
My man.
Do
Here
you
we
know
go.
what? My parents were so proud when the phone went told them. They weren't.
You did it, geography.
Yeah, no, they weren't. Do you know that was one funny day, looking, because I walked up and my geography teacher was walking out, and he went, "Oh, congratulations!" And I thought, "Yeah, one in the bag." Literally.
Prove them right that said I'm getting on.
Yeah. But yeah, and I just and then, you know, I went to a college in Bootle in Liverpool and did some other courses and stuff, and eventually went to, you know, university in Derby. That's why I ended up here. And so I you know, you can look at it on one thing I failed in terms of stuff, but also I'm where I am, and who knows what would have happened if I'd done other things. I always had this thing early on about moving to London and doing music, and so part of me sometimes thinks, oh, you know, I could have focused on it, I could have done something with music. But then, you know, God, I've got a normal family, I've got so many mates, I live in a community that's wonderful. You know, I'm able to do stuff in the city and further afield that I otherwise couldn't have. It's not gone that wrong, is it? You know.
And in school, I know we measure kids on grades, O-levels, A-levels, GCSEs, whatever it is. What about the emotional intelligence? Were there teachers or figures in your life, mentors, that taught you a bit more than what school sometimes teaches?
So I went to a Catholic school.
Oh, here we go. Okay. We're in.
As in run by Christian brothers, blokes
Right.
in long black skirts, basically,
Lovely.
walking around strapping you.
Oh, God.
Honestly,
Literally?
yeah. They used to strap people all the time.
So why didn't that put you straight? Sort of.
Yeah, well, do you know, I went in an atheist, and I came out an even stronger atheist. So I spent most of my time arguing with them about God or the lack of it. You know.
I bet they hated you.
Yeah, they were good. Yeah. Do you know, I remember one lesson where they brought in some nuns to teach us about sex education. And they were talking about the rhythm method. You know what that is? It's basically abstinence.
The what method?
Rhythm method.
So
abstinence
okay.
to points where, you know, you limit the chance of whether you can produce a child. And so they were talking about it, and at the end of it, I put my hand up and going, "Can we just go through this again? Because I'm not quite understanding what the hell you're talking about," you know, and that sort of thing like that all the time kicked off, you know.
Oh, mate. And did that have any implications on you, though?
It made me a bit more. Well, it certainly made me firm in the knowledge of my atheism.
Really?
Yeah, and the fact I also thought, do you know what? religion hasn't got a monopoly on compassion or empathy. I mean, we went away one weekend, like this sort of retreat thing, and there's a couple of us who were in the same sort of feeling about stuff. You know, we were mates at school, and then there was everyone else, sort of thing. And when we were on this retreat and we had a night off, all this lot went into a pub in the village. We were only like 16 or something, and me and two of the others who were mates, we went out to this other place and just sat and had a drink and chatted the evening. And when we got back, the other lot had had a fight with a load of people. And when we got back to school, the headmaster, I always remember, the headmaster came up and he said, I heard what happened. I bet it was you two, because we were like slightly, you weren't allowed to dress differently, but you know, our hair was different and it's that sort of stuff, and the trousers were a bit tight.
Found
and all
some
that.
way of getting individuality into.
And he said, yeah, I bet it was you two. And he talked to this guy who's a friend of mine called Gordon, and he said, I bet it was you two that kicked it all off, sort of thing. You know, with the way you look and stuff. And so Gordon looked at him and said, didn't Jesus say that it was more about what you were inside rather than what you were outside? And he just picked up a strap and hit him with it. And
no
he did
way.
It. Yeah. And so it's at that point, well, not at that point, loads of times you just think.
But that's an element.
If there is a God, he's nowhere near.
Yeah. You've not quite read this book properly, mate. No. There's a lot of nice messages and metaphors in this. He was really into Old Testament God.
Yeah, but it was just, and so that, you know, I did get an education, but not the one they expected.
Yeah, that's a good way of going about it, though. Yeah. It's finding out what you definitely don't want leads you to the road of what you do want eventually. So that's an exercise I sometimes do, is write down 100% if I'm doing an event or whatever it is, what don't I want about this? I don't want to be all out of pocket. I don't want to be running around like a headless chicken. I don't want to, and eventually go, okay, that means I need more people. That means I need funding. And it just helps to find through that way, doesn't it? Were your family religious?
Sort of. I mean, they were trying. I mean, it was funny. My dad was sort of the Catholic in the family, and that's a show in itself, isn't it? But towards the end of his life, he was becoming less religious. You know, but in a more community, chilled out way. So not massively. It's just 5 years of Christian brothers can push you towards stuff, can't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it was just crazy. You know, I'm glad things have moved on from that. You know, that's no way to behave, is it?
100%.
I think now, God, if any school now did that to my kids.
Yeah. Schools are definite. Again, before, when I talk about schools, because I had such a bad experience, it's all of this really negative light, and I just thought, really outdated, I hate school. And then suddenly I keep going into them because of people like Martin Illingworth taking me in and other people. And actually they're wonderful people in so many schools that are really passionate. And not to say there's a lot of bureaucracy in schools where they have to tick boxes, and I feel very sorry for them because that can put them off eventually, and it condenses it down what they can actually do. But I've seen wonderful teachers work outside the boxes and still get the boxes ticked, if that makes sense. So I think
we do stuff through Furthest from the Sea with schools, and they're great. You know?
Really?
Yeah, they're just really real fun places. You know.
Are you okay? Can we talk a bit about Furthest from the Sea?
Talk about whatever you want.
Well, let's do it, baby.
That's good.
Furthest from the Sea. How long's that been operating?
About 9 years, maybe.
Congratulations,
maybe,
that's
like
good
that.
Going.
Yeah.
Did you set it up from the start? Was it a CIC or
No, so we set it up as it was just me on my own at the beginning, and then we quickly have other people involved, and it was based around music, and I was basically putting on some gigs at the book cafe in town, and then I wanted to promote that a bit more and promote music more, and so someone from the council said, "Oh, why don't you do it on the marketplace?" And so we set a date, and that was fine. And then I got pulled into a meeting when the council said, "Oh, there's somebody else who wants to use the marketplace on the same day. So can we just work out which bit you want?" And I didn't want anyone getting in the way of the music. I wanted people to focus on that.
Yeah.
So I said, "Oh, I thought when I booked it, not part of it, the whole thing." And so I had to sort of, lie is the truthful way of saying it, and say that, "Oh no, it's going to be massive. It's going to be all over it." It's like, and they said, oh, right, okay, I didn't realise, so we'll put you on the other one's on a different day. And so then I walked away from that thinking, crap, now it's got to be, and so that's where it started, to be honest. And then connections with other people, and then realising how many people in the county and the city operate on their own, don't they? You know, whether they be a comedian or a musician or a dancer, or didn't seem like there was a way to help people to become the next thing, or to, you know, to get away from just performing in front of their parents or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's where it sprung from, that idea of trying to give people an opportunity some ways. And sometimes we've done well with that, and sometimes we've failed, but, you know.
The beauty of business, though, isn't it? It can't all be sunshine and rainbows, or the trajectory just look like a straight line.
Yeah.
It needs to look more like a graph where it's like up and down and here and there, and that's what makes it quite beautiful for me anyway. With the business, just keeps binging. It might be my phone. Turn it off. There we go.
You're too popular.
Too popular? I'll take that.
Yeah, just, you know, but I think things have changed. I mean, I always remember when first few years of Furthest from the Sea, arguing with people locally about grassroots and artists and stuff, because everyone always liked the sort of highfalutin ballet dancers from, you know, Czechoslovakia or somewhere. And I'm like, what about the ones from, you know, Ilkeston? What, you know, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What about something locally? There's nothing wrong with people from further afield, but, you know, let's look at what we've got locally as well and put the two together. And so I was all of that, but I think now it seems to be an open conversation where it wasn't before.
So you started it up over this lie. And
exaggeration,
then,
I think.
Yeah, exactly. That's a much better way of putting it. And then, when did you start bringing more people into it? When did it
Pretty
start?
much straight then. And,
really?
Yeah. And
how did you build a board and a team?
So lots of people got involved voluntarily. On a volunteer basis. That sounds like I force people, but no, as volunteers. And then my memory's terrible, by the way, so I've probably missed out loads of people who'd done loads. So thanks very much before we go any further. And then, you know, a couple of years later, Dan Webber got involved.
Yeah, lovely fella.
Phenomenal bloke.
He is.
And we got other people involved and built it up. And then now we formed a CIC about, I don't know, 4 years ago, maybe. 5 years ago.
Still furthest from the CCIC?
Yeah, furthest from the CCIC.
Oh,
I always wish we called it furthest from the CIC. But but then that sounds bad, doesn't it? You know.
No, that sounds perfect.
If it's furthest from the community interest company, that means it's completely out there for just making money.
Yeah,
anyway.
we're the furthest from it.
Yeah.
I took it not as literal.
You're more positive than me.
I was just going with the poetic feel.
But it's good, and we got a board involved, and then we've last year was our, I don't know, 4th or 5th year to get funding from the Arts Council. We've had some from the lottery and people. Man. Yeah, it's good, and they've more come round to. They used to be more about big organisations and you know, well-known ones, but now they seem to have changed what they're doing to fund more grassroots, more locality, more community.
That's exciting stuff.
Which is ace, actually.
Seeing things blossom.
Yeah.
Have you got any moments where you felt really proud in what you created? Any gigs in particular, anecdotal stories of people performing, you thought, this is the vision we had. This is exactly what I wanted.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of people I've seen develop over the years and stuff. You know, just in a small part to us, they, you know, mostly done it themselves or, you know, through other adventures. Do you know the one I tell quite often sometimes is a guy called Josh, who's a really good friend of mine, and his mum, I think, was doing a market stall at one of our events, and she pushed him. He said, "Oh, my son's looking for a placement out of university for a year," and so he came to see us, and it was chaos at the time because we didn't have much money. So, you know, if you're you have to do everything, book stuff. You have to, you know, exactly the same thing. Set up the stage, break it down, pick the letter up, everything. And so I said to him, "You can do a year with us if you want, but it won't just be like a tech PA thing. You'll have to do everything." And so he was up for it. And I said to him, "The only goal I've got for you is by the end of the year, I want you to perform something. That's it. You know, nothing else." So anyway, it went on, and he was great, and he really helped develop stuff, and he got stuck into everything. And his last show was on the marketplace we did by the waterfall there, you know.
Yeah.
And I said, "Go on then, this is the moment, get up there and do it. And I'm standing next to his mother and grandmother, and he got up and he started performing. And he won't mind me saying this, and he was rubbish. But you know what? But you know what? No, but you know what? He broke down halfway through it, not knowing what he was doing, started laughing.
Really?
Yeah, and you know that was the whole point. He had the wherewithal within him not to be phased by it. He was completely confident. He just thought it was funny. And the year before, he wouldn't have done that. And so that made me well happy.
Where's that in the curriculum of that sort of confidence in people? So important, and just building up opportunities. It doesn't mean you've got to be good or if you're bad or whatever. It's just putting you in a moment, because that in life, to be able to be in front of people, hold yourself proudly in who you are, that's all you need to do. You're enough. And then just make the most of it and laugh at yourself. Oh, it's absolutely stunning. That's a really beautiful.
But he's great, and he's a really good friend. He's a wonderful human being, and he's doing loads with his life, you know. And
what's he up to from that?
So he was doing photography, and then he started working for the emergency services. So he's on the phone lines doing that, and then he's become a special constable, and I think he's in the progress of moving on from that, but I can't go into it.
Yeah, that's fine.
But he's doing really well.
What a cool guy.
Yeah, he is. He's wonderful. And do you know what? He's a phenomenal photographer as well.
And we've done a good story there. Any moments where you thought, what have I put together here?
No, not really. I mean, I get annoyed with people in the city, you know, whether that be in council or with organisations. And sometimes I guess I haven't really taken their view on what they're going through and what they're having to deal with. But it just that annoys me sometimes. You know, you just think you could easily do this, that, the other to make things better, and you don't.
Yeah,
I hate that. I mean, I think that's about. I absolutely love politics, because I know some people say they don't like it, but it's in everything and it's part of everything. But I just wish more people involved in politics would realise why they got involved in politics in the first place. And hopefully that was to make things better, not to stay in politics. Do you know what I mean? If that's the thing.
I did it with poetry and music. I just started writing from a place of desperation, and it was the most cathartic feeling that's ever happened to me. And then suddenly you start putting it online, and a part of me as a young kid, it needed validation. I needed to go on a path of validation. So going on stages and performing was a necessary part of my journey, but it felt a bit ugly, and I was doing it for the wrong reason at points, and it felt very strongly in me. It didn't feel authentic anymore. I took a year out or a bit of time off, and now I'm writing every day again on a treadmill in my house, and I absolutely love it. I really love writing, and it's for myself, or I can be creative and think, this feels like it's a film, or this feels like it's ready for a beat or whatever. But it's all the way back round to when I first began, when I needed it, and it's just that mind clearance. And same with any endeavour you're on in life. If you're feeling stagnant, or you become a part of the mechanics and it's all become sloppy and not feeling right, just have a moment out and take it back to the first time you began. What was it in that moment it was providing for you? And completely same with politics. Do you really get stuck into politics then? Because that is one thing I know about you. Very community spirited human. You're involved is what I've experienced. You seem to know what's going off.
I try to. I mean, you know, I'm involved. I'm a paid up member of the Green Party, so I should put that out there. But yeah, I think the biggest problem I have is I get a bit short tempered and a bit quick with people when I see something that's obvious that could be fixed. You know, like, I mean, when I came to Derby, I loved Derby as soon as I got here, because I thought, coming from Liverpool, which was vast, I thought Derby's that sort of size. You can get round it in an evening. It's got a feel to it. Do you know what I mean? And there's a community here, and it's just big enough to be a city, but it's small enough to still have some kind of connection where you can walk around and say hi to 5 people as you walk through it. And I don't know, the thing that bugs the life out of me, why that isn't the positive that we talk about. It's always comparing it to Nottingham or Leicester or Birmingham or Loughborough or somewhere. Do you know, I wish instead of becoming a city, we should go back to being a village. That'd be cool as anything, wouldn't it? Do you mean
Village.
The biggest village
Yes.
in the country, and it's lush and it's clean and it's wonderful and it supports its residents. How ace would that be? That'd be phenomenal, wouldn't it?
Because I suppose when it's a city and it's fairly small city, when you're comparing it to, it's always chasing its tail then, because it's constantly trying to build and build and build. And back to mental health, we know if you're just looking in the future all the time for better, you're not going to concentrate on making the now a good place to be. And I feel that can be the case a lot of the time. It's trying to prove itself, I suppose.
They should put a massive bandstand on the marketplace. That'd be phenomenal, wouldn't it?
Now we're
all
talking.
Set up and then loads of events going on. It'd be cool.
Do you get to put these ideas forward? Do you work with people?
All the time,
Do you?
And they'd always say, fuck off.
Do you feel not listened to a lot of the time? Is that...
I mean, they don't want me to swear. And they always say, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. That's a great idea. Yeah, well, we should talk about that more, shouldn't we? Later. And later
I bet that's annoying, isn't it?
It is, yeah. You know, they've obviously got their own issues dealing with, but I think there are things that... Do you know, there's loads of people in the city that could really make a difference to the city. And I wish they were more involved in stuff. And it's sort of, with the city culture thing, it's been spoken about around the edges. But actually, the city culture is a great idea, isn't it? You know, there's that's something that could do really well for Derby. But, you know, it's also, if we use it right, if we galvanise all those individuals and organisations in the city, not just the ones that are known, but, you know, all those people that you know and I know and operate on their own devices. You know, the fact that they've been able to survive on their own, doing their own thing, shows they've got something about them that's worth something. And if you could pull all those people together, that would be a real city culture, you know, not one that you just have loads of money and pull stuff in, but one that comes from the centre and goes outwards. That would be phenomenal.
Completely. Have you changed your approach then to, if you feel you're just talking to a brick wall a lot of the time, have you thought of different innovative ways of how to bring that together?
Well, I mean, there are people who listen in the city, not enough, but we have a festival each year, so we're just trying to build that up more and more. We're going, not that anyone knows this publicly, I'm probably not supposed to say it, but we're thinking about going for national portfolio status, you know, for Furthest from the Sea. So we have funding that's ongoing.
Brilliant.
And I think that would help a lot. And we're trying to do, I think the one thing that we're trying to do is to do more stuff outside of the county. So, and some people don't really get that. But actually, you know, if we had 20 artists that we supported to perform around the country, they'd still have Derby as their home, and they would make the city more because of that, wouldn't they? Do you know what I mean?
Completely, yeah.
Looking inwards never really hurts it. Helps anyone a lot of the time. So I think the thing that we're trying to do is to do our own thing and support people to do more with themselves, and then hopefully that has its own impact on the city itself.
Mate, I love everything you're about. I really do. It's very authentic, and I can feel it. Can we go to your music a bit? As well.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the story there?
So I've been kicking around with it in different guises for years, and then I think through the whole mental health thing, it gave me an opportunity to look at what I was doing and why I was doing it, and actually looked at, you know you write stuff sometimes, don't you, and don't actually look at the lyrics, like some of them are about you wrote them. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you're saying there.
And so when I did that, and then I applied for some support, and so I was able to get some help in terms of having more time to record it, and so we're releasing an album in February next year, but we've had time to record it with people to help us record it, and you think, that's why those people who make it, they've got loads of money. It helps, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Having a producer in, or having time to actually redo tracks makes a difference. So I'm really looking forward to it when it comes out. You know, I don't know how it'll go down. I still might have 27 boxes in my loft or something. But actually, I'm really proud of it. You know, it's really.
I think that's what it comes down to, isn't it?
Yeah,
If you can look back and go, that was a fantastic experience, I gained so much out of it, and look at the end product, that's enough now, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And I'm fortunate to have 4 musicians who play in the band with me. And, you have that feel where you've got a band, and I would happily have us play on anything, doing anything, and be fairly confident with it. That's quite a good place.
For the listeners, what sort of music?
It's there's a bit of rock and roll in there. It's a bit poppy, and there's a bit of if I say there's a bit of gospel in there, people have this thing of what it is, and it's not like that. But I love gospel music. I don't like the content.
Yeah.
But I like the melodies and the passion and the drive of it, and so I listen to it quite a bit now. And so there's a lot of that's come through. I guess generally people might not hear it, but to me I can. And it's sort of there's a cross between 50s rock and roll, bit of gospel and pop, I think.
So, yeah, that's a nice mixture there together, mate. It's eclectic. Well, I typed in my favourite band the other day, Fat Freddy's Drop.
Okay.
And they've got 19 different genres attached to them.
Wow.
Oh, okay, that's the sort of
good, isn't it?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
With the recording, where did you get it all done?
We did it with a guy called Dave Sturt. You know him?
I think I do. Yeah.
So he's
from Belper.
Yeah, well he was, and so he pretty much did it on his laptop.
Literally.
Yeah.
Logic.
I don't know. Oh, God,
yeah.
That's beyond me.
Yeah.
It was a microphone plugged in.
Perfect.
So we did it in kitchens, and it was over COVID and a bit of lockdown as well. So that's how we had to do it. Really, we were planning on, recording it live and then trying it again and stuff, but we couldn't because of COVID. So it was great.
And music's been quite a consistent theme through your life. Have that always been there with you through being a kid, school?
Yeah, but I mean, it's one of the things that I look back on because I gave it up in my mid-20s for about 8 or 9 years. Didn't touch it.
Anything happened?
My mum died.
Oh.
But do you know what? I never connected the two at the time.
I get you, yeah.
You would do, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
you should do. So it just shows what kind of brain my brain was at. But it was only in the last 5 years I thought, yeah, maybe that was the reason.
When did it come? Is it a bit of an epiphany moment of, hang on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see.
I think when I was rewriting the show and trying to do stuff, and it's later than that actually, maybe in the last 3 years, I was thinking through stuff and I started going to some therapy and talking stuff through. I was thinking, yeah, that's, the bleeding. But do you know what I mean? That's the thing about mental health, isn't it? If I say that now, everyone will laugh going, what an idiot. That's obvious. But do you know what? You're in a place where the obvious isn't obvious.
It's too cloudy.
It's miles away. Yeah.
And what's your writing process then? Is it very inside reflection?
Yeah, sometimes it just comes out. Quite a lot of the time, it's the melody and the lyrics and the structure comes out pretty together, sort of thing. But a lot of it's driven by a bit of passion and things that annoy me. Comes out. But yeah, it's and just phrases actually. If you hear other artists or not just music, but in terms of films or friends and say something to me, that's, I don't know about you, that triggers
that's
something.
a big one for me. Yeah. I had a friend who used to come around all the time, and you must have a friend that you love but they annoy you.
Yeah, I've got loads.
All of you. This lovely person, she just always had the same problem. It's always about the same guy, and it always dealt in the same way. And she'd come over. I think I approached it a couple of times, but I didn't know how to set boundaries with people very well. So I just let them talk at me and go. And I'd have nothing out of that night, really, in the end. I was just sat there and I'm going, you're in my space, can't watch anything, and I've just got to listen. And I love listening, but sometimes you need to know when to detach from that. Yeah. So, yeah, it would be every other day she'd come round, tell me about it. But one line, she said, I've looked in every book in every library shelf. And she said it that fast. I looked at that. I was like, what? That's weird. Say that again. I look in every book in every library. And I was like, I need to write that down. And then she left, and I thought, what piece of advice would I want to give her now? And instead of trying to fix her like I would do before and tell her, you need to do this, try this, do that, it was like, you've got this. You'll be all right. You've got this. You're going to be fine. It's all down to you. You need to be strong. You've got this. And that was it. I thought I called it or titled it, You've Got This, and started off with, I look in every book in every library shelf. And that was just so musical.
Yeah.
And the song wrote itself really quickly, but it was just from that one phrase.
Yeah.
Have you got any little moments like that where out and about listening to an artist and gone, whew?
Yeah, well, I had, it happens different ways, and sometimes there's the song "We Are What We Overcome," which is the whole title of everything, everything I'm doing with that. Joe, who's the percussionist in the band, we were talking about different rhythms, and there was a rhythm called oh my god, I'm not going to remember this now, but and I had it was something like about beans on toast or something. Do you know what I mean? It's a way of remembering it. And so I was camping and we were with the family, and I had this thing in my head about that. And then there's this American thing on YouTube, a guy who was going about this thing, and he was saying something about beans on toast, whatever the rhythm was. And so I remember sitting there in the car writing this song, listening to this guy in my ear going, beans on toast. But it worked.
That's awesome.
Although I can't remember what it is now. That's terrible. Joe will remind me.
It'll always happen when you're being filmed, the best bits, and it'll come back to me.
Yeah. It's like the girl from Ipanema rhythm. Yeah,
okay.
Do, that one.
I like that.
Don't like it's not something like that.
We'll
But yeah,
take
it was great, and I had this annoying voice in my head of that repetitive, but it was great, and it really sparked something.
Oh mate, I've not got much knowledge on music, and I think that is, now I've been working on myself and I've been enjoying the business, the musical side of me. I love poetry and the rhythm of that, but never went for an instrument, and it's just something that's speaking to me all the time at the minute. What's the musical shop in Derby? Folds, yeah. Went in there, and I'm left-handed, and when I did, my mum and dad would sit with me. What do you want? Drums. But then really what I wanted was them to just be with me, so I'd do anything.
Yeah.
But my mum was very busy, working, farm, bop. So they'd get me them, but they'd just leave me with them. I don't know what I'm doing. Just learn them. And they would sometimes get me a teacher or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think I just wanted to connect with them. So I was put off instruments. And one time I was like, oh, guitar. And they got me this really big, oversized guitar for me as a kid. And it had a horrible action from the fretboard.
My mum did the same, a Spanish guitar. Like, it's got a really wide neck. And
Yeah,
you can't play it properly.
Can't play it. But it was steel string as well, so they were far away. It cut my fingers to bits, and I just didn't fancy it, and I had no guidance there. But then recently, me and Chrissy just went out to Derby for a threads and went to a few places, and I just nipped in there out of interest. And I sat down with this sort of 3/4 size, left-handed Tanglewood, and it felt perfect. You know, in a film where you sit with it and then music would come on, it's that's his thing. I think I need to make a little bit more money and go in and just make the plunge.
You know, I had the same guitar from when I was early 20s, and it was like, I don't know. I guess these days it probably cost £100. You know, it was a pretty cheap thing.
Yeah.
And then when I was in my 30s, I came. We had a little bit of money, spare money, and so my wife said, "Oh, you should get that guitar." Slight exaggeration of the truth. I'm glad you've got that guitar. It's probably more like it.
Yeah.
And so I spent the money on this guitar, and I bought a sort of £900 guitar.
Nice.
God, the difference! And you just think, oh my life, this is just, and it was. And I love that guitar I've got now.
I think it's good advice though. Put the money in. If you get something for £30, £40, go and learn this. Yeah. The feel of it isn't nice a lot of the time, but if you can give a £200-300 and it just feels perfect, the likelihood of carrying on with that as an endeavour is going to be more long lasting.
It's just different, isn't it? It's you know. If you buy a car and it doesn't work, you're not going to like driving, are you?
Yeah.
And so it made a big difference to me. I just it opened up my music in a way that I felt much better about it, and I started writing more involved stuff and more melodic.
Oh, cool,
I guess,
cool.
and that's developed, and then up till now, and it'd be interesting to see what happens with the album. I just who knows? It will have a fun time, but I think it stands up there.
What's your ways of you going to promote it, and how you're going to go about showing off the album?
So we're looking to tour a lot next year. So as well as the band doing a tour at the beginning and the end of the year, I'm going to do lots of stuff on my own and with some members of the band.
Wow.
And we'll do lots of promotion, and we talk with the show. So that the albums, all the songs from the show and a few others. But with the show, we talk to lots of groups, so in different parts, in different cities in the country. So, and they're really supportive, and we try to help them, and they help us. So, that they share it out amongst the people they're connected to. So whether that be like a men's mental health group, or whether that be BBC Introducing, or whether that be a podcaster or a local journalist that's got interest in it. And I think it might work because as well as the mental health angle, there's the comedy angle and there's the music angle.
Yes.
And so if all those things come together, there might be 7 people in the audience. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
or 8.
Yeah, 8's a perfect number, the magic number.
Yeah.
Do you get a minibus? Are you going to travel in a big van together? Are you getting out?
No, we're trying to be as light as we can. So with the band, we obviously have to have one bus with us in and such like. We're trying to chat with different people like Network Rail at the moment, and trying to think about what impact you have on it, and so I mean, ideally, you travel as many of us as possible by rail as much as you can.
Yeah.
But God, that's expensive, isn't it?
I mean, of course.
Why don't we make the railways free? That would fix so much stuff, wouldn't it? Do you know, it'd just be
People could freely explore.
brilliant, wouldn't
Yeah.
it? And get out their cars and maybe even talk to people on the train.
Yeah.
Imagine if that happened.
They wouldn't be so closed off from others. They'd be around them more often.
Yeah. So, we're trying to do stuff like that. And also one of the things I really want to do is I want to concentrate on the area. So we're looking at the Midlands and trying to, as well as playing a lot around the country, I want to play a lot more in the Midlands and build up a sort of support within that. I think that's important. And again, one of the great things about being in Derby, you almost seem like you're 2 hours from everywhere, aren't you? And it's just great.
I do feel in a lucky position because people, Ripley, where we're at now, I've heard of it spoken in such a negative light in so many elements of my life. And then you go, well, Belper's here, Matlock's there, Nottingham's there, Derby's there. And you just keep going round and round. And we've got so much beauty. And then when we reflect in, I'm really proud of my little township now. I think it's a beautiful little area. I think we're building up and people are coming together and being supportive towards it.
It's good.
Yeah, it's really awesome. Just going looping back round then to the mental health side of it. So you had the Edinburgh Fringe where it all sort of come crumbling down and you had it presented. You've got to work on this now.
Yeah.
You mentioned a few times in the podcast therapy.
Yeah.
Really helpful? Has it been a big part of your life?
Yeah, I would say, I think I've seen maybe 3 therapists.
Right. Is that because the other 2 didn't quite speak your language?
No. Well, one of them wasn't great, but it's not like you're not fixed, do you know what I mean? You just need to be careful, and there's times when you need it, I guess. And so early on, I spoke to someone, but I was quite distant from them, because I'd never been before, and blokes and all that stuff about not going to see him, and it's all a bit weak and all that sort of thing. And so I was sort of that mind frame that you go in there and they sort of get the Lego out and say, express yourself by building a tree or something. And they'd be lying down on a couch and say, tell about your mum or something. And which they didn't do any of that,
It's good to take away them misconceptions.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure a lot of people have that in their minds. And
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I have been to a counsellor that had a load of Lego in the room. But it's funny, she said, do you want to express yourself through Lego? I was like, no, I'll use my mouth, if that's all right.
Yeah.
But it's funny being funny.
chat.
Some people who can't do that, it's probably a good thing for them to be able to do that, isn't it?
Yeah. It's an approach.
Whatever it works.
I don't know. I've never heard of that approach, actually.
you?
When you've just said
Oh,
I
my.
thought, that's
Look it up.
not me. That's
Yeah, no,
definitely
it's
not
not.
me.
But
Express yourself through Lego.
yeah, well, I guess if you're, it's not just Lego, but it's other things, isn't it? Like drawing. I
can get the drawing.
Yeah, but people have an affinity to. I suppose with Lego, it's hands-on, isn't it? And it's childlike things.
That was what I was picturing in my mind. The childlike element of it,
so
playfulness.
It's quite an easy way to do it. It's just not for me.
And I really vibe with the drawing
Yeah.
element of it. How am I feeling? And just big scribbles or whatever. But I've just honestly never heard of it with Lego. So okay,
It's real.
The saying "what works works."
Yeah, well, it wouldn't work for me. But no. So I think the first time I went, I was very offhandish about that. But the guy was great, and he helped. He sort of started me off on it, really. I think that's the other thing we've got to think about. People, for me, I should have thought about therapy. It isn't going for 6 sessions and by the end of it I'll be back to where I was or better, the new me, Mark 2. It's just the start, isn't it? Everything's like that, And you shouldn't put your pressure on yourself or on the therapist to think, all right, fix me.
Yeah, yeah. And that's a bad mindset, really, isn't it? They need to fix me.
Yeah.
It's all on you. I suppose you get to this point where you're desperate. You just don't have the answers and solutions, but you have to want it for yourself. So it's not really their job, duty, responsibility to do all their fixing.
Yeah.
They're just given the tools to fix yourself.
Yeah. But it's exactly right. And so it's an ongoing thing. And I think as soon as you sit back and relax into it, for me, as soon as I sort of just accepted the situation, and that was just the start. It wasn't the end, be all and end of anything. Things slowly got better, and the last time I went to see someone, it was great because I wasn't in a great place, but I was more open to the conversation. Do you know what I mean? And, and it's hard, isn't it? And do you know, I have to say one thing that really bugs the life out of me when people keep saying that we talk more and more about mental health and blokes talk about, there's still so many people who don't talk about it. And so before we do the self-congratulatory stuff about being open and stuff, there's lots of work to do, isn't there? And I guess I know we said before that I don't give advice to anyone, but the one, I suppose thinking about the one thing I do say is that talking to people sometimes
it's a great start, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Are there any things you implement in your days to keep on top and maintain your sort of mental clarity?
Yeah, sometimes I just give up.
Yeah.
So
that's a good way of being.
It is.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get to 1 o'clock or sometimes it's 5 o'clock and I just think I can't deal with any more of this. So I don't.
So that's awesome. I remember speaking to a therapist one time and I couldn't get to the session. I just said, I'm out. I was on the phone angry. I just can't effing leave the bed. I can't get out of here. I'm not doing it. I don't want to do it. He said, well, don't then. Don't. So I lay there. I let my body just do its thing. I was in bed, all clothes everywhere, everything over me. And then suddenly, as I let myself release, I probably was an hour, 2 hours max, and my body just said, should we get up? And then I'd not put all the pressure on myself. Get up. Do I get up? Do I just stay in bed? Do I get up? Just let myself lay. Called off work. And then suddenly I went and got a shower. And then I just listened to my body a bit more. And it was going, I don't want to be in this shower any longer. It's getting a bit just tepid. Should we go downstairs and just eat? I was just listening to that then. Yeah. And just from that therapist saying, well, don't. Just do what your body's telling you now. Yeah. And I just lay. If you can start tuning in, it made me feel really good to just go, well, I'll do this thing next then. And that was little stepping stones for me. And really good advice from them.
Well, I think a lot of the anxiety that I've had in the past is just expectation of need to do this next.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you said, having that thought about, do I actually need to do this
next? What actually happens now? Yeah. Like, what actually happened? I just lay in bed and then listen to myself, and that told me what was next needed.
Yeah. And so I think that to me is the...
Do you journal at all?
What do you mean, like diary?
Yeah. anything, or
Well,
gratitude lists or anything like that?
No, I guess the songs are right.
Yeah,
A journal in some sense. That sounds a bit naff, doesn't it? The
No,
songs are right or a journal,
no.
man. Yeah. You want to hear about me? Listen to the melody.
Yeah. to be fair, I think poetry is the way of really owning that story, though, because I've journaled. And it's felt nice, and I've done like free writing where you just let everything spill out onto the page. But to take all the jargon and everything you've just put down and then say it in a sentence or say it in a single line and choose a clever message or metaphor or image, that's owned that then. Everything you've just put down. So that's why I love poetry, because it's owning your story again.
I think I like more than anything. It's just conversation. I mean, I genuinely feel better after a conversation all the time.
It's true.
And it drives some my wife and friends nuts, because if I have an argument with someone, I immediately afterwards feel better and forget anything about it, and they linger on it for days. It's
really?
Yeah, and it's and I get that, so it's bad.
Yeah.
But I think for me, it's just vocalizing what's in my head is a great thing. You know?
To you, would it help to pick your battles or find the people to speak to? I suppose if you've got a therapist, that's really helpful because they're neutral, whereas when it's got an emotional attached to it or connection, can be quite hard then for the days after. I'm the exact same with my partner, but now we've just decided to put boundaries in place.
Right.
And it's that I need to open up, have conversations and converse with you about things. But if I'm overstepping a mark because it's just too constant for you and it's encroaching into your life, let me know and tell me where we're at. And we've got a really good relationship now.
My wife has the same thing. She says, "Shut up."
Yeah.
That's
really
our safe word.
It. Yeah, shut up. That's a perfect boundary. Yeah. And do you know when to shut up? Then you know it's
most of the time.
Yeah.
She's ace. I mean, it's taken us a while to get to that point, you know.
For somebody hearing this now and feel out of control in their lives, and you don't try and give advice. But is that probably your best piece then, is have conversation, just find somebody that you trust, that you love, and have that conversation?
Yeah, I think so. But I also think the thing I've found out is that some people don't like it, you know. I mean, lots of people a while ago used to say, the thing to do is to talk, isn't it? It was like that BT advert years ago, it's good to talk. Well, some people, it ain't, you know, some people just don't. And so I think there's a lot who having a conversation is a great thing, but you just have to be careful how that's phrased sometimes, and you know, some people it's just horse for course. Some people react to an opening gambit of a conversation, and some people probably want to start it themselves.
Yes, yeah.
But I have to say, when I talk to my mates, you know, I get the pub and we talk about anything. It's ace, you know,
yeah. I love your approach to life, and I've got a similar nuanced perspective, and everybody's different, and everything's situational and context. Because I've got friends again that I love. I did another podcast with a mate, Words and Wisdom. Lovely fella. He's a personal trainer, and sometimes he speaks in absolutes, and it's if they do this and they do this, then this is the outcome. Yeah. And I do think at times that can become really overbearing and not necessary to hear. And there's been times in my life where I've listened to podcasts and motivational speakers, and they're just shouting, "Do this, man! What's something with your life?" And it's really not what I needed to hear at the moment, because I just felt so inferior, and I wasn't doing life in the right way, but I couldn't do what they were suggesting. Yeah. So I suppose a lovely piece of advice of what you're saying is, find your approach, try things out at least, and know what works. So if you had a conversation and it made you feel, go with your gut, that wasn't quite it. There's other avenues and ways of dealing with your situation.
You're just trying to support people to find their own space. You said it before, didn't you? You know, people have to find their own brick wall or their own, destination and stuff.
Yes.
And so the idea I've always tried to have is just to talk to people and let them find their own place. Unless it's your kids, then you should tell them exactly what
Yeah,
they should
yeah,
do.
yeah.
That's a
Come here,
difference.
you. I'm sorting it out now.
If any of my kids listen to this, they'll be like, what?
Yeah, I love it. It's true. It's different with kids, doesn't it? And
Yeah, it is
especially your
different.
own.
It is different.
It is
So if you're
different.
listening, it's different.
It's true though. They're born, and then I've had this new idea where I was trying to let Ella just be explorative and do her thing, but as soon as she goes near the oven, that's a direct no.
Yeah.
I'm not letting you burn your hand. I know you need to know things are hot,
Yeah.
but the lesson doesn't come from scolding yourself.
Yeah.
The lesson comes from your elders have been there, and we've got a bit of wisdom, a bit of knowledge on the way, and you learn from that, and then your own stuff as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fine line, isn't it?
It is.
A friend of mine recently had his first child,
Nice.
and me and another friend were trying to tell him that his life would change as soon as it's born. And he's like, no. And you can't tell him, can you, until you cross that line.
Yeah.
And then it's changed.
And it's funny, mine wasn't immediate, the change.
All right.
It's just come in time. Because, again, I had the birth element, and it was an interesting encounter. I didn't feel that how people were telling me how I was going to feel, I didn't feel all them immediate things.
Right.
It was all a bit of a glaze over for me. I did have a cry, though, the second it happened, because I sort of seeing your partner go through so many emotions, so much pain, so much whatever it was, that was hard to witness.
Yeah.
But the holding was nice, but it wasn't this esoteric, emotional tirade of feeling.
Yeah.
But as it's gone on and I've seen her develop, I didn't know you could love like I love.
Yeah.
But also the polar of that, fear the way I fear.
Yeah.
Anything happened to her now, and I've got this complete new look, approach, and feeling towards life. So it's scary.
Yeah.
It's a bittersweetness of it all, and
But you can't explain that feeling to somebody else, can you?
It's like somebody that's not tried honey before.
Yeah.
Try doing that. It's a sticky, gooey, sweet taste.
Yeah.
Well, how many things are that? That's all I can say. So it's try it. Oh, that's honey, mate. This really enjoyed this, but I know you. So you're supposed to be somewhere for 11.
Yeah. What time is it?
So I'm really sorry,
It's
dude.
all right.
We got lost in the
It's
moment.
fine. It's been good.
Have
isn't
I
it?
got you in some troubles?
Probably.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
At least it's somebody else for once in my life, you know.
I've really enjoyed this. You're a
been
lovely
good.
human.
No, it's been good. I really enjoyed talking to you.
We'll collaborate more. We've got
Yeah.
this mental health festival. I love you involved in it in whichever way we go. It's I think for this year we'll look at some funding, but I'm keeping a laxed approach, and I just know I've got lots of lovely people that are willing to be involved.
Well, we can help, definitely.
Mate, we're ticketing it, so I'm just going to split the money between whoever's come in and try and divvy it out in whatever way. But the money is like honestly down, and it shouldn't always be. There needs to be that monetary element towards business.
You have to live, don't you?
You do. I've got kids. We've got stuff to do. But for this one event, everything else in my life at the minute, I've gone, right, money's here, important, dash. But for this one, I've just gone, I just want it to happen. I really feel, after a self-development workshop that I went on recently, and has completely altered my thinking, I really want to create a space that can help and do something of good. So we'll collaborate and work
Sounds
on
ace.
it.
Yeah, definitely.
People want to see more of you, your music, everything you're about, Furthest from the Sea. Where do they go?
So the short version is Furthest from the Sea. The next big event we're doing is on Cathedral Green on the 25th of June. We've got a festival going on there all day, you know, by the Museum of Making.
Oh, me and
So that
family will come down.
Yeah,
That'd be brilliant.
definitely.
I love
It
that.
should be a great time. And We Are What We Become takes off next year, but this year in August, I'm in Edinburgh for the whole month of August at a place called Symposium Hall. I think it's at 2:00 or 1:00 every day.
Wow.
So you can come and see me 24 times.
I'll try and get down. That'd be cool. When is it again?
From the
August.
3rd of August to
From
the
the 3rd of August.
27th.
Because me and Chrissy, we try and get away in like a camper van every year, and accidentally we did Edinburgh when the Fringe was on. Genuinely accidentally. So that was a beautiful moment for us. But I'd love to come down.
Yeah, you should definitely come.
That'd be
fun.
wicked.
We'll have a good time.
Wicked. Okay. Guys, you've been a part of the Old Farm Bus, Back of the Bus Sessions podcast. You've been with Matt. I'm going to leave you on this. I always do. I always will. Just be nice to one another, you beautiful set of buggers. Have a good day. Cheers for being here, man.
No worries.